Well, hey, how you doing there? Hopefully you're doing well today. I hope that you're doing just fine, just peachy keen even. Keen even. I've been running around in Darktide and other things with guns and cool stuff, trying to do some shooting, enjoying this. And I just keep thinking, man, what if the Imperium fell? And I'd be like, I'm there for it, man. I would enjoy it. Uprising is a little bit easy, but you know what? That's fine. I'm gonna be doing talking more than anything. So, like, man, I would be so glad if the Imperium fell. It would be so cool, and then we could have like a bunch of cat revolutions all across the galaxy, and then we could, rebuild, but with like cool guy powers. You know what I mean? Like if we just used our cool guy powers, like a lot of people want to support Gilliman and all that, and yeah, I guess Ultramar is better than a lot of the rest of the Imperium, but like, still, what we should do instead is have the Lion, since the Lion's already back, have the Lion look at Gilliman and be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then Gilliman's like, "I'm creating the Indomitus Crusade," and then the Lion is like, "Oh, okay, that's cool, I guess, but have you ever considered giving me all of the credit?" And then they have a big gunfight, and then they're like, you know what I mean? And then I think that would be great. Well, I guess.
I spent so long barred from my duty, I almost forgot myself.
Duty gets tiresome.
Well, okay, maybe not really that. Although I do think it would be kind of funny to have the Lion come back and like look at Gilliman and be like, "What you doing here, Gilly man? What you doing, bud?" And then like, at least having some questions about it, like because, he was there for the Imperium Secundus stuff, right? So he was there for like, what am I even shooting at over there? I guess I thought I saw somebody. He was there when Gilliman was like, "Oh no, we've been cut off from the Imperium for a little bit. I guess it's time to make another Imperium. Whoa. We should make Sanguinius the Emperor. I don't want to be Emperor. We're gonna make Sanguinius the Emperor." And it's just, I don't know, it just seems very silly and kind of fun. Oh. Did you get him? Nope. And he just... There we go. Oh, dang it. I thought I could swing just fast enough to get him. Did not quite work. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it would be kind of interesting, or, maybe like some of the Imperium, now that they're like working more with the Eldari, maybe like some Eldari start kind of almost like, not like straight up taking over worlds, but people are like, once they get to be more willing to work with them, it like starts to get to a point where it's like, "Oh, you guys seem to know what you're doing and have better technology and have better everything. We'll just give ourselves over to you because you might actually be able to protect us and help us, rather than, the Imperium, which mostly fails at that." Or, the Leagues of Votann as well. Actually, one of the funniest things about the Leagues of Votann coming back, or being a thing now, is that, like, is that you can kind of have, I like it, why not? Is that you can kind of have, I have a chainsaw. You can kind of have just like ancient Dark Age technology just be a thing that is available. Like, okay, if you're the Mechanicus and you find out that the Votann are like a thing, how are you not just spending like every day going, "We're going over there, right? We're gonna go kill those guys, right? And take their things, right?" Or maybe you don't even do that. Maybe you're just like, "Wait a minute, you have more advanced technology than the Mechanicus. You have more technology than the Mechanicus. Why don't I just join you?" Or like, well, technically they might not have more technology than Mechanicus. The Mechanicus probably has like, if you go to the very, very top end of some of their stuff, might still have better stuff. Oops. Thank you for aid. Wait. I revved up my chainsword. I was ready. You know, so it would be kind of cool to just be like, hey, stop. So it'd be kind of.
Be grateful for another chance to serve.
Or so like you would think that there would be enough people, or just like enough people like going, hey, wait a minute, what if we just like went over there and took their technology? I mean, that's, oh my goodness. Oh. Ew. Oh, thank you. Just to make sure that they don't shoot us in the back while we're doing this. Although I think we're on low enough difficulty that it's probably fine. Regardless, really. Cool.
Got it! We bloody got it! A worthy kill, Templar!
Cool. What's in here? Anything? Nope, nothing. But yeah.
The enemy has separated us.
It would also be kind of interesting if you just had like a bunch of like Imperial Guard just being like, hey, you see those Necron over there? They told us that if we gave ourselves up over to their service, and if we would agree to be their little garden gnomes, basically, that they'll just give us like way better lives than we ever had in the Imperium. So we're just gonna go over there. And I mean, you could do it where it's like, oh, well, you can't trust the Necrons, but maybe you could trust these Necrons. Or, you know, there's a lot of little different things. It just seems like the Imperium would have a really hard time actually holding on to anywhere near this much territory for like 10,000 years. I don't really know how, I guess, that would manage, because it just seems like everything's broken, everyone doesn't trust each other. And even if you have like something like the Inquisition at your back, it's like, okay, yeah, it's scary because they can purge your planet, but like at the end of the day, is it not just like a small selection of like cruisers? And then it's like a bunch of Imperial Space Marines, which, like, okay, you could argue, yeah, well, they're pretty loyal. It's like, are they? They're loyal to a certain extent, and it seems like the problem that you get is that you make them, oh gosh, dang it. You make them maybe too loyal in a certain extent and never able to question things at all. And then, like, that makes it so that, like, a tiny crack in their resolve becomes a huge thing. I mean, like, plenty of Space Marine chapters just end up rebelling. And then people are like,
Any investigation?
is ammo back there? You were... I pointed to the ammo for you.
Hold that pose, heretic! You cannot hide from judgment, sniper!
The sniper's trying to hide from judgment real hard. But you know, you would think that more people would just really rebel, and you would also think that there would just at this point be basically more factions of like humanity, or like Xenos and humanity kind of working together, because they're just like, hey, the Imperium sucks. And you know, considering the amount of people that are walking around going, hey, the Imperium sucks, it's not even very good at defending us, you would think that like more people would like break out of that mold. But you know, well, that's a scary skull. They drew horns on it. You know, that's how you know it's scary. our normal Imperium skulls, they don't have horns. That's how we know that they're good skulls. There's also all this stuff about like xenophobia and things like that, and you're like, well, if they're this level of xenophobic, you would think it would be harder for aliens to get in, but then it's like all it actually takes is like a couple of people seeing that not every single alien is that evil, and usually it's fine. It's like, well, you know, there's a lot of fanatics and stuff out there. It's like, yeah, but you know what almost always ends up trumping fanaticism is it if you actually have power and hate. Ow. If like someone gives you something useful, like read about different revolutions or read about like people who like claim to be fanatics and how often they're actually just like, you know, perfectly into whatever thing they claim that they're not into the second it's like convenient and available for them. I mean, then again, I do kind of assume that most people, when they tell you something, you kind of have to question whether or not, like... Oh, we go here. How are you? You kind of got to ask the question about, like, whether or not they truly mean what they say, because a lot of people say things just to try and, like, make themselves sound better, and, like, in general. And this is like people will lie about like things about themselves like all the time, right? They'll just like fudge the truth a little bit, and they'll try to make themselves sound better. And a lot of times it's not even like truly like malicious. It's just like this natural human reaction to like because humans are a social species, right? Like social connections are so much more important, and so you got to seem competent even when you're not. It's like how people will do dumb things and then come up with an explanation afterwards. Like, oh, I did this dumb thing, but I actually did it for a good reason. But then if you actually listen to them, you're like, oh, you're completely making that up. You were just like, but yeah, like people will do that sort of thing, so you gotta ask questions. But then like because like to me, like in a lot of cases, actions speak louder than words. So people can tell you all the time that like, oh yeah, I believe XYZ, but if they never act on it and there's no praxis, it kind of makes you go, do you actually believe that in any way, shape, or form? Or are you just saying you believe these things? And it's like, in a lot of cases, I've found that people just talk. Like, so my thought with the Imperium is that a lot of it is probably just talk. Like, sometimes the stories written from the Imperium perspective, like, make it sound like they all actually believe it, and then, like, that doesn't really sound like people. That sounds like the way, like, a storybook character would be written, but not, like, the way, like, a person would actually act. Like, it seems to me that people, especially like if you take away their convenience, get very testy pretty quickly. It's very interesting, and you would think that with the way the Imperium is, there would just be like constant revolutions and constant like everything just going so bad. It's like, how would they actually be able to maintain order? And your only thought then would be like, okay, well, they have to do it through military force. Okay, but the military force still has to be made up of people who would be willing to do all this stuff. And after a while, you're just like, I mean, okay, I kind of understand it, but part of me can't help but think that like there should just be like way more like minor factions that have broken away from the Imperium. And not just Chaos. I mean, like, yeah, sure, Chaos would be one thing, and that definitely makes up a significant portion of the people who leave the Imperium or who fight against the Imperium. But I don't even think you need to go for Chaos. I think, like, you could very easily just make the argument of, wait, why wouldn't more people just, like, embrace the Xenos, like, just because they can clearly see that, like, in most cases, they're not, like, what people say they are. But I also got to consider that a lot of people do not have, like, the necessarily, like, questioning authority thing. Like, considering me being me and just constantly thinking that all authority is basically just made up, like, I'm much more likely to see, like, a bunch of people behaving in a weird way and be like, okay, but why would I give you any authority more so than anybody else? Why would I assume you actually, for instance, know what you're doing rather than are just making it up and just trying to get me to follow along? Man, I have not played on this low of a difficulty in a while. I forgot how much easier this is. Like, we've mostly been playing on Heresy or the last one, which I think is Damnation. Oh, up here. But yeah, I don't know. I think it would be a good thing if the Imperium fell, and if it just got broken apart into like a billion different little pieces. I am not an Imperial loyal. I just can't be, man. It seems like such a ridiculous state. But the problem is that a lot of this just comes from me, like, some people just detach themselves and are just like, oh, it's just a silly fantasy or sci-fi setting, right? It's like, that's understandable. And if your brain works like that and you're able to just be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to question it, I'm just going to do it. It's like, but for me, I want to have like the stories in my head about people that I find interesting or like someone I could at least understand their logic and why they're doing it. Like the weird chaos philosopher guys who are like, well, ultimately everything reverts back to chaos, so we're going to do this. Like one of my little factions, or the Rift Drakes who are like, yeah, the Imperium sucks, but we're just going to take advantage of how much it sucks to better our people and to get our own people raised up and things like that. Or, you know, like a weird Necron guy who just wants to have basically a bunch of humans to guard. And like that stuff's interesting and kind of cool to me. But I find that if you just wanted me to just go along with like the basic idea of like being loyal to this big Imperium thing, it just doesn't work very well for me. But I guess it's just because whenever I think about these factions, I always think, well, what would I personally actually want to deal with? Would I personally, knowing what I know now, of course, be okay with and not okay with? Like, if you were just born in the Imperium, it's a lot harder to be like, okay, man, I'm gonna stand up and rebel, sure. But looking from the outside in, it's like, oh, yeah. Or just like orcs. Orcs are just fun. Orcs are just fun. You know? But that's just me. You bought it? Oh, like I died, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. But there's also reasons to go with the Imperium too, I guess. Like, you know, the Emperor is probably like one of the only real defenses against chaos and the warp. So, I mean, like, it makes sense to continue to worship him. Unless you, like, make up your own god that, like, says no. And smack it to chaos. Smack it to chaos. Chaos get a smack. But I don't know, that's just like a bunch of my thoughts about how maybe the Imperium falling would be actually kind of cool. And then maybe like you can keep the religion so that the Emperor can protect you against in the afterlife against chaos. But maybe you just start calling him something different. Call him Dave. Or Savior Dave. There you go. Savior Dave. All right, cool. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. And I hope that you're all full of sublime cashews. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye.